Welcome to Recycled Idaho, where two recycling industry veterans, Brett Eckhart and Nick Snyder, explore Idaho businesses and organizations that are putting in the work to keep Idaho environmentally and economically viable at the same time. Take a listen to how these entrepreneurs, business owners, and operators are making things happen in the great state of Idaho. In this podcast, Nick and I sit down with our very own Tom Neill. We officially named Tom the president of United Metals Recycling in January of 2020. Tom has a great background with our company, and I'm personally looking forward to another 30 plus more years of running our business beside him with all of our great management team. Take a listen. All right, Recycled Idaho, volume, we don't know. Episode, we'll see.
Yeah.
But we're sitting down here with one of our own, Tom Neill, Nick Snyder, myself, Brett Eckhart, the Recycled Idaho podcast. This is the first time we've done one of our own guys, interviewed our own guys, but we thought it was super pertinent just because as of January 1st, Tom Neill was named the president of United Metals. So being that we want to get this one recorded now, we've kind of been putting it off for a few weeks. We finally sat down to get it done. So Tom, Nick, let's get this party started.
Congrats, Tom. I mean, well deserved.
Well, thanks.
I think probably the biggest reason why, just a little bit of background on Tom and my relationship is I've known Tom since we were freshmen in college. I met Tom at Eastern Oregon University. We both showed up in the fall to play football together, played the same position, lived 2 doors down from each other in the dorms, and that was kind of how our relationship formed. So previous to coming to United Metals, you were involved in what? Give us kind of a little bit of background on what you did.
Yeah, well, so prior to graduating, well, not prior, after graduating, I moved to southeastern Idaho, worked for a company over there. Basically, it was a call center. I kind of got a taste of supervising people. That was interesting. I learned a lot. I was fresh out of college. I really didn't know a whole lot. But anyway, so that opportunity was good. After that, at the time, I moved over to Western Washington, Tacoma area. I worked for a company out there, industrial staffing agency. I was in Tacoma, Washington, and that was pretty interesting. I really got my eyes wide open on that one, just kind of with the different people, working with different industries.
Tacoma's pretty rough.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
No,
it was rough. I mean, and also, too, to put it in terms, we were staffing, companies, and, the companies that were staffing, most of them wanted to pay the employees at minimum wage. So you definitely would get a lot of challenging workers. That's kind of PC.
Yeah, exactly. Nice way of saying.
And so it was kind of like one of those things, right? You'd come in the day and you never knew who showed up.
Did you ever staff for any scrapyards over there?
Yeah, Calbag.
Okay.
Yeah, Calbag. And basically what we had those individuals do, they would go there to basically throw rims.
Okay.
Bust rims. So
clean them, clean lead wheel weights off, do that? Or
yeah,
just throw them,
mainly
really?
just throwing them.
Yeah.
That was the main
They just
part.
needed some labor.
Into containers?
Yeah, into containers, which is a pretty physical, demanding job. And
yeah.
we actually had one guy, he loved it. I forget his name, but he's kind of a character. But that was his jam. And he was one of them that would show up for his repeat assignment. Because how they would do it, they would go, if they liked the worker, they would put on the ticket, repeat, and then you would just, hopefully they'd show up the next day. About, 75% didn't. Yeah. And then you'd have to fill in, and you'd show up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have a table like this, and I'd have all the tickets printed out, dispatch. And this was in the day, we didn't, the phone, we didn't have really GPS on our phones or whatnot. So in addition to that, it was kind of tricky because you'd have to figure out who had a car. Because 2/3 of them, the workers, didn't have vehicles, so you were mixing and matching who had a vehicle, and then you'd have to print directions. because this is in MapQuest, the Google Map days, right?
Yeah.
And you'd give it to them, and you would try to tell them where it was at, and you just were like crossing your fingers
They
that
would
they
just
show
show
up, and that was a major win.
Yeah.
I mean, and then it was like if they stayed the full day, that was like the win of all wins, you know. So it was pretty wild. But it was a good experience. It taught me a lot about people, a lot about, you know, people's motivations and things like that.
So prior to that, when we graduated college, I tried to recruit you to come back to Idaho from Oregon and work with us. You know, this was 2004, and I was going back to the family business, and I'm like, dude, I got a good gig for you if you come and you want to show up. And you had already made commitments to move back to East Idaho, I think, and then you went to Washington. But I always told you, hey, if anything ever changes, if there's ever an option, you know, just give me a call. And I said, and we'll go to work. And I remember when you called me, you're like, all right, I'm thinking about moving back to Idaho. I'm like, let's go.
Let's do it. And I was pretty, you know, real fortunate at the time. I mean, you know, that was, you know, that whole 2008 to, you know, 2009, that was right when the economy had just, I mean, it was terrible. Right?
Yeah.
And
was that hard on a staffing company?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
because people weren't really looking to hire.
Yeah, the only thing that sometimes was kind of only positive part of it is some of the employers didn't want to commit to full-time employees because they weren't sure from, you know, projecting from a year out whether or not they were going to retain those employees. So you could kind of get a little bit of business from that, but majority of it, they were just trying to keep their own people working.
Yeah.
You know? And so when I reached out to you, I'm like,
And that was in 2008, you said?
2009.
Yeah.
2009, yeah.
Okay.
It just, I think it was just the winter of 2009
Okay.
when that happened. And, yeah, I mean, thank my lucky stars, you know, that you said, I think I got something. I figured something out.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll figure something out, you know.
Figure it out.
So, and what's cool, I remember, you know, Brett Buxton, who works with us, you know, him and another friend came over with the Green Effect trailer.
Yeah.
Loaded up my stuff.
Yeah.
On a Friday night, loaded up everything I owned, went back to Boise, and I showed up to work at United Metals that Monday.
What's crazy is a lot of people don't know the story, but so like when you came back to work Monday morning, we were just in the middle of hatching this website called Recycle Connect.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it was just kind of this thing that I was like scheming on as far as building almost like a Craigslist for scrap.
Yeah.
So we had Recycle Connect, and you could go in and post stuff for sale or stuff that you were looking to buy, whatever else. And it never really took off, but we made a run at it. You know, we built the website, and we learned a ton, right?
Yeah.
So everybody loves to talk about all your victories, and nobody always poo-poos all the stuff.
Brush it under the rug. Hey,
like that one
always
for
successful,
us, like
100%.
For me, like I've taken enough L's in my life. Like I know how they feel, and I always learn something from it, and I always get something out of it.
Well, you know, and I was just thinking about this the other day because Nick and I were talking. We were in Grandview yesterday, and we're driving back, and I was trying to. We were talking about Zeke, who does a lot of our computer work and website work and whatnot, and that's how we connected with Zeke.
Yeah.
Was through that, you know,
and
through
Zeke
that
was
website.
here today.
Yeah,
Talking
Zeke
about
was here
website.
today,
Like,
you know, so
even through that.
Yeah,
you
so
got him.
even in your roughest, toughest times and when things seem like, you know, they're not going the way that you want to go out, there's always something you can take from it, right? And you learn from it, whether that's you made a connection here or a connection there. Things have a way of working out, right?
And I think like most people that probably know me, like they know like I'm not afraid to like try something, right? Like I'm like, all right, screw it, like let's switch course. Yeah. So after that, we got into electronics. We started United Electronics Recycling, right? And that was kind of you. That's how that's what you were doing.
Yep.
We got you on top of that. And then that's how we found Jay. Right, Jay started in electronics. So do you want to give us like a little history?
Well, it was kind of interesting. You know, I was like, well, we need a couple guys, so to put an ad out on Craigslist. And Jay had a couple people that I called. Actually, I called you.
I never
returned my phone call.
got that voicemail. I will stand by that because I was at the time was looking for a job, and manager of TV Pipe, they gave you my name and number, and I still don't remember that voicemail.
But it worked out good, because you went to work for United Metals anyways, and we got Jay on board. But it was funny. I remember I had a series of, I think I had like 6 or 7 interviews, that day. And I kind of had my mind made up of who I was going to hire. But I had one more, and it was this guy. He pulls up in this jacked up Chevy. I'm like, oh, this guy's interesting. And he comes in the door and sit down, and we just start BS and talking, And he's telling me about his stuff, and if anyone's ever talked to Jay, he's just kind of...
He could BS with anybody.
Oh, yeah. He'd just tell me this and that, and, he had a CNC background, and kind of from my days at the staffing agency, I always kind of found that those people, were pretty versatile, and so I was like, okay. Let's give that guy a chance. And thing with Jay, and then Jay came in. We obviously developed a good relationship, but we fed off each other really good. And Jay has a very good mechanical mindset, and mine's not great. And so I was able to kind of draw off Jay, and Jay was kind of able to draw off my kind of more selling experience and, the staffing part and business part. And, basically how I would go out, acquire the e-scrap to our different customers that we had built up, bring them back, and then we would just dismantle them. And we just learned together, and that was good.
That was a win for us, electronics, business. So we went from loss to win, and I think from there, we built the Boise yard, and
that's
where
where
we're at right now.
That's where I really met you, Tom. Like, we really helped open up Boise.
Yeah.
So we built the Boise yard. You worked the scale, managed the yard, everything from weighing people in with cans to all the back end of the business. And from what I recall, that's kind of how you cut your teeth in the day-to-day.
I look back at when we started this facility, and I mean, looking back at it now, and I'm just like, all that is crazy to me, because I mean, I know when people walk in the facility now, like, they don't know what it looked like empty, and they don't know what it took to get that baler in here. That was a massive project. And then setting up the copper chop, and where it is now, I mean, just amazing when you really kind of get down to it. But so we're down here trying to get everything set up. We integrated the electronics. We were in a building on the other side of the airport, and we integrated that here. And there are a lot of moving pieces. Finally, I remember when we had the grand opening here, and someone's like, "Hey, who's gonna talk at the ribbon cutting ceremony?" And I don't know how the hell I got, but I was up on the stage, right? And Dave Beaters, at the time was mayor, and he's up there talking, and I'm like, boy, and I don't really like to talk in public like that. I don't have a lot of experience in that, but anyways, we got through it. But funny part about that is at the time, Brett Wells, he was working over at Diamond,
down the road,
Diamond Street, and Brett is now the director of our Boise and Mount Home Yards, and Brett Wells talked at that grand opening too. So it's funny how everyone's paths cross, and then you never know when it's going to be a colleague of yours that you're going to be working with and making a difference. But so once we got everything set up here in Boise. We're trying to figure out the operations part to the buying part. I know I had a conversation with you one time. I'm like, well, okay, so what do you want me to do, here? And you're just like, just make sure things get to the right places, A to B. I'm like, okay, And then what was neat for me is that I learned a lot from Nick on the non-ferrous side of things, and because I was kind of weak at that. And the pricing and how all that happened. And I remember, when we were in that, scale house, and we just wanted things to go, because we knew the financial resources that were put in this facility, this building. And, when we started out, when you just have a few customers.
One or two,
and you're like, oh,
the
man.
location of this facility is awesome for like big trucks.
Yeah.
It's awesome for dealers. It's spaced. It's got easy access off the freeway, but it's not really in a retail traffic hub where you get the day-to-day 5 pounds of cans and this and that, and just the traffic right by your facility. So this facility now is great, but it took a while to build that steady customer base just because of its location. And I think that forced us to be, on top of customer service. Like, we had to be exceptional on the customer service end, or else nobody was going to make the effort to drive out here. And I think that's kind of, we always prided ourselves on customer service, but it seems like that was one of the things. If you get somebody to drive out here, you better do everything you can to take care of them.
When we first opened, you asked me in Caldwell, do you want to go to Boise and help open it? I said, hell yeah. I wanted the challenge. I was so used to Caldwell where we were almost at 100 customers a day. I got here and we were like 1 or 2, and I had that feeling. I'm like, uh-oh.
I did too.
And then but it makes you really focus on the price, focus on the service, focus on, hey, look, how can I help you? Tell your friends, and it happened. Month in, month out, we get more and more, and then repeat, and it was really cool to see it, and it was really cool to meet you that way and to kind of help build it together.
It was neat.
So after that, then I remember I was sharing an office with my mom, I think at this time, and my mom was my dad was ready to retire. He was on his way out. My mom still to this day really enjoys working, I think. My dad was kind of like, all right, let's go do something different. And so we knew that we needed to take off the insurance and the HR part of, what she was doing, because Brian Ferguson, our CFO now, was basically beginning to handle most of the financial stuff. So that was kind of the transition for you, if I recall correctly, into the HR, insurance side of our business, like the real back end. Once we filled the scale house and able to handle that.
The first really big project was the health insurance. That we started, really working on. And when I started doing that, I realized I was way in over my head. but there's some good in that, because sometimes when you know that you have a big challenge ahead of you, all you can do is work at it. And keep working and working, and then surround yourself with good people. And we were lucky. We found a really good insurance broker. His name's Doug Hetherington, and we're still with them to this day. And he helped us kind of get things on track, but there's a lot of legwork to do with that. And we were able to, do something pretty good in my estimation. And then that kind of led into the HR stuff and some of the compliance stuff and safety stuff, and that's kind of how it rolled out.
When we were talking about, I have a lot of irons in the fire, and we were talking about, here recently, towards the end of 2019, how we were going to structure, the entities and what we were going to do and how we were going to kind of move around the org chart. And we were talking about, who was the best suited to be the president of United Metals. And I always thought, somebody that has done about every job, at least for a short amount of time. I think the only thing you haven't done is the mechanic.
You don't want me doing that.
You don't want me doing it, and I don't want you doing it. We've been able to find some really good mechanics that know that side of the business. So I always thought that was pretty fitting. But I always I get this question a lot lately, and because I talk to a lot of different people from all over the country, and they're like, "So are you guys having a tough time hiring people, in Idaho?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, that is. I mean, I can't overstate that enough. Like, no matter where I've gone to and who I've talked to, there's certain positions that are fairly easy to hire. When it comes to office staff or something like that, it's a little easier, I guess. But when it comes to just general labor, CDL truck drivers and whatnot, I mean, why do you think people want to come to work here at United Metals? I mean, what do you think we offer that? I mean, because you spend a lot of your time recruiting and bringing people in, and we hope that by us doing this, we're kind of putting it out there that we are always on the hunt for good people. Yeah. We don't care what the economy looks like because we're on the hunt for good people,
right.
And we'll teach you the business, but I always say I can't teach you how to be a good person.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think people are wanting to come work here?
I think, this company has a lot of opportunity to give, anyone that wants to come in, earn it, work their time. But it's just like anything. Like you have to, sometimes start from square one and then work yourself up. But there's plenty of opportunity here too as well. I think another good thing about United Metals is the fact that it's a family-owned company. When you punch in the morning, people understand. They're not working for this huge corporation where you're just a number, right? Some people, you work for a public corporation. That's a lot of their business is dictated on quarters because they're publicly traded.
Or even a huge private corporation.
Yeah, even a private,
big one,
so where, one day you might be working there and then for some reason there was, a guy in a suit somewhere and he said, your department, you have to lay off 250 people. And so it's just a number, okay?
Yeah.
What my vision has always been for United Metals, and it is, and that's how it's played out, is that everyone knows each other. Brett, when you go down to our yard in Hayburn, Twin Falls, Mount Home, wherever you go, like they know you, and you have a good conversation with anyone that, that we just hired to, someone that's been working there 6 months or someone that's 10 years, and that's my thing too, is that when I go around too, I like people's stories. Like everyone has a unique story to them.
Yeah.
Like what makes you tick, and everyone's motivated different ways. But I would say primarily for me is just like I think that's the biggest driver, why people want to work here at United Metals.
Yeah. And it's getting tougher and tougher to find, people, and I know, there's, people talk about culture and, this and that, and culture is one thing, and having a fun place to go where you're not going to love your job every single day, but you're going to at least appreciate the people that are around you and that they want the best for you. But I think it's just as much about like reputation as it is, people as the word reputation is probably more important to me than the word culture, because I want our reputation to be like we're going to do the right thing
and they're
by you as a person. Yeah. And you may not be a fit. You might get here and say, "This is not exactly what I thought it was going to be
for everyone."
And we want you to walk out the door with a smile on your face and say, "That's not my jam."
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But the reputation part is huge because we live and die by our reputations.
Yeah. And the number one thing is to be fair to people.
Yeah.
Right? And I've always looked at it, and the way that the yards are currently set up is that, I think the biggest thing that we can do for individuals is to help coach them. Identify their skill set. Okay, are you more on equipment operator side? Are you more on mechanic? What about truck driver? Is that something that you want to do? And if we can develop that, cultivate it, and coach that, it's a win-win. Right?
For sure.
And for me, like that's the beauty of the American dream, right? Is that when you come into wherever you go, there's opportunities as long as you grasp them, as long as you put the effort in, you're motivated to come to work every day, you'll succeed.
We were just talking earlier, we did a Hustle Harder award, right?
Yeah.
Like the reason we came up with that is because
we want people to know, like, if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to, hustle and have some grit, like, the options are endless. I mean, we'll find you if you don't like doing X, but you're busting your ass doing it, then we'll put you over here at B. And if that's not your fit, then we're gonna find something that's your fit. As long as you're willing to give your max effort trying to do the job, but you're like, I could be better at something else. We'll keep moving you until we find your fit, as long as you're willing to put forth the effort. And it seems like that's kind of the beauty of what we do, is we don't expect to just squeeze you in and you're a round peg and put you in a square hole. Like, I kind of want you to just grow and do what you do.
Use your skill set to better yourself and the company. I mean, and I think that's part of our culture. I think that's one thing that we do show, and that's one reason some of the social media, some of the podcasting stuff we're doing, like, I truly want people to know that we have that culture here. Like, we
do all of our stuff in house. Like, and I think that's what is cool about us. Like, if we want to get good at something, we don't just farm it out. Like, we dig in and we really try and figure out, like, what is it going to take to be good at X. Right. And I think that's just the nature of how we go about things.
Yeah, and I think too, the scrap business, it's really niche-y too. I mean, you could run equipment for 20 years, run an excavator, whatever, doing dirt work. It's a lot different, sorting scrap and doing what we do, right? So that is part of the appeal, in my opinion, to come here to work for United Metals, right? Because we have to train our people well. We have to develop them, because it's hard for me to put out on an Indeed post and, we need a senior scrap operator, excavator operator, right? Yeah. Because the application is different.
Yeah. You can know how to operate an excavator,
right,
which is fine, but you may not know how to, operate an excavator with a magnet and then unload unprepared iron and feed a baler and all that. I mean, we can teach you that.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you can operate an excavator, that's great. We just can't teach you how to have hustle.
Right.
Can't teach you how to, like, work through some crappy times and kind of get over the.
Yeah. And another thing I try to tell when I interview applicants and whatnot, I kind of tell them the story of United Metals, and I talk about your parents and you and I always just say is that we're not afraid to explore new opportunities, and you never know when there's something that's just going to be a fit out there, right? So like you look at like what we're doing with the copper reclaim and the converter reclaim, right? Those were just things where we kind of thought of an idea, but then you have to have good people, to put in those positions. And again, like, what would you rather do with your existing employees? Would you rather draw off them and bring them into the fold, or just hire someone just out of the blue that you don't know? And our philosophy is like, no, we got to look in-house first.
And we're always, hatching and coming up with ideas to kind of expand what we do. And so I always tell people, I'm like, just stick it out. I'm like, if you work your butt off, stick it out. I promise you something's going to come along.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, if anybody would have ever said a year ago that we would be trying to start our own media company, they'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are in the scrap business, right? Like, they'd be like, doesn't make any sense, But the reality of it is with us, I mean, we started a mobile pickup company for just copper. Like, we're that's a
and we're the only ones doing that.
And but we did that because we saw that there was a need for it, and so our goal is to fit that need. And then it goes back to what you say is find the right people to do it. Yeah. And if you're in house already, we're going to give you the first crack, especially if you're sitting there busting your butt and putting forth the effort and saying you want opportunity. Like, that's what we're here for.
Well, I could tell everyone firsthand, like, when I started here, I saw that opportunity. And
for you,
Like my favorite story, like a lot of my favorite stories is everybody that is at this table, and like a lot of our management team, like whether it's Jay or Buxton or I mean Barry on the hauling side, or I mean Joe on the pipe side. Like there's nobody, and Brian came in as basically just like admin. Like nobody that's involved in what we do every day is started as the boss.
Yeah,
nobody.
And that's where
like everybody started.
Even
on
Jim,
like,
Jim up on
Jim
all
started
that,
as a driver.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody that we have started doing grunt work.
So we're all the proof, and like just going back, like I saw the opportunity. I interviewed with you. You gave me that job. I just started doing cans, and
I'm not even a good interviewer. I don't even know. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah,
I
and I tried it, and I even told you like, hey, I told you in the interview, I was like, hey, I plan to just get on my feet, go back to college, But I saw the opportunity, and then you asked me to go to Boise, and then I worked my ass off, and you gave me the opportunity, and that's just proof right there. And I said, hey, I'm not going back to college.
You ran aluminum cans for a year.
For a year, I did a can for a year.
Like they don't know that. Like,
and I worked in that center for a year.
Yeah.
And then the timing was right. The opportunity was there. And that's just like is proof with me and a lot of the guys. I tell everyone that story, but I just sometimes don't know if they truly buy it all the way.
Yeah.
That's true, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I agree. Going back to the electronics days, going to pick it up and then just busting the boards out of it and sorting it and just trying to figure it out, And then I know
the president of United Metals drove a box truck, picked up shitty computers, took them back to a warehouse, pulled hard drives, fans.
Here's a really good
out of
story.
them, so like if anybody really wants to know like the reality of the situation, like I'm telling you right now, like
so this is a good story back in the electronics day, and it includes Jay, and we've already discussed briefly my lack of mechanic skills, but anyway, so we get a line on some good electronics, and in the electronics business, it was always like there was a lot of crap out there, so like when you found like something good with value is awesome. So this company had a bunch of storage units, and they had like these small little computers, but they were filled in like a Gaylord box, and it was like, I don't know, about 4 feet tall, whatever, and they were just stacked to these computers. And when I talked to the guy on the phone, I really wasn't expecting that. And he opened up the storage unit, I'm looking at it, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, it just hit the mother lode. I was so excited about it. And we had that small box truck had that lift gate on it. And so how I'd do it, I'd have a pallet jack, and I'd go in and I'd pump it up, and then I'd maneuver the boxes or pallets onto that lift gate, and then go up with it, and then put it in the box fan. Well, these boxes were so heavy, and I just muscled it onto the lift gate, and I pulling it up, and the lift stalled. And I'm like, oh my God, like we're just so close, and this is a disaster. It's a complete disaster. Like, what are we gonna do? And I had, at this point, it was hot outside. I think it was about 100 degrees. I have my polo shirt off. I'm just in my white regular Hanes tee. I'm just sweating, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'll call Jay. And I called Jay. Jay rolls over in that big jacked up Chevy that he had, and I don't know what to do. Like, it's not picking it up. And so Jay is like, starts, gets in the truck and kind of puts the gas down to kind of keep that battery moving, And by God, it took us a while, but we got those computers in there. We got them unloaded, but it makes you appreciate it, more, Like
the small little wins. Like I tell people, when I started full time in 2004, we had like 20 something employees, somewhere in there, and now between all the entities and locations and stuff, like you're between 150 and 200, and so people are like, jeez. And I'm like, why do you do it? I'm like, dude, I don't do it. Like, I've had a bunch of people that have came up through the system, like over the years. Like, you don't build it overnight. My grandpa didn't build it, overnight. My dad didn't do what he did overnight, and we haven't done what we've done overnight. In 2 years is be 50 years. Literally, like, we've been doing it for 50 years. So we're not a startup. Like, we're not, we don't have a bunch of people throwing money at us to keep this thing running. Like, it's up to us to try and make money in shitty markets right now on the scrap end to keep the wheels on the bus. And I think that's what's fun about it is every day it's the team. We both played team sports. Yeah. You played team sports growing up. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a team game. Like, for sure. Business is such a team game, and like that's probably why we all see eye to eyes. We're used to us. You win as a group, and you take L's as a group.
And you learn from those losses.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too, and then again, it just goes back to the people, and trying to get good hires and trying to get good people in that want to grow, that want to learn, because you just never know when there's going to be something, opportunity where we can start a new yard here or do this, and now we got to draw from our people, and if you have them in place and you can trust them and you can work well together, because someone might have really good mechanic skills here, but might not know like the markets here, but if you just work together, like you can eventually get there. But a lot of that though, you kind of have to drop your ego at the door and say,
for sure,
hey, I don't know everything, and I have to be the man. I mean, that's the worst thing anyone could, in my opinion, do in life is say, be that know-it-all. I know everything, because you don't.
Yeah.
And then you're going to encounter a problem that you don't know how to solve, and if you can't ask for help, that problem's not going to get solved.
Yeah. How do you grow your business? You find smart people.
Yeah.
You get them in there. You find stuff that you're weak at.
Yeah.
And, you don't double down on your weakness. Like, you say, I'm shitty at this. I'm going to go be good at what I'm good at, but I'm going to find someone that's really good at something I'm crappy at, or whatever that is. So, that's always the way I've kind of approached things is, A, find what you're good at and do it. Find something that you're not good at. Find somebody that can fill that role and be really good at it. And then the two of you, 3 of you, 4 of you, 5 of you, 100 of you can combine, and now you got something.
Yeah, and one thing that I've kind of seen, working here is, if you're ever in a position to where you supervise people, you manage people, don't be afraid to delegate things. I think people get so worried that they're training their replacement. Mm-hmm. You're not training your replacement. You're training someone to take some burden off you so you can do more things. And anyone, not only here or wherever you're working, like, don't be that way, because you'll never scale. Yeah. You'll never grow.
You'll never be able to be part of the bigger picture, right? No. So, like, if you want to be part of a growing business and you want to be part of the growth, then you have to be willing to train the next guy so that you can then have the opportunity to grow. If you're not ever willing to train the next guy, then they'll never replace you in that position. Yeah. Because
you're going to be stuck.
You'll be stuck in it. You're better off. It's kind of counterintuitive, I think, to the way a lot of people think about it is you're better to train your replacement while you're there. That way, when the time comes, you can move up. You can go start that new yard. You can be that new position that they create in the office or whatever it is. Yeah. And especially if it's something that you want to do that's different. You want to switch up your career.
Yeah. I think a lot of people that haven't fit into our culture that had some really good skills and some real good promise are the guys that couldn't do that couldn't swallow the ego and delegate, because I don't know if it was fear or what the word is, where they couldn't just teach people around them. Yeah. And once you learn to trust, and once you learn to trust the culture here, or where, like you said, wherever you're working, like you truly will just, like, everyone will flourish, everyone.
And look, I mean, by, my time working here, I've made a ton of mistakes. Ton.
Yeah, we all have.
You know, and that's the thing, and that's what I want everyone, the company, to know is just like, look, it's not the fact that you're going to make mistakes. That's just life. Don't get caught up in that, and don't be fearful of talking to someone and admitting that, because that's another way that you're going to grow, is to learn from it. The only way you can learn from it is to admit it and to cop to it and say, I don't know. Like, I screwed up. I didn't do this correct. But then someone can step in and show you what you should have done, and you learn from it. And then you try not to make that, mistake twice.
You own that mistake. I've made a ton of them buying scrap, But on all those, I remember all those mistakes, I remember them, and I take them, and I try to tell everyone that I teach, hey, I know this because I did it, and I screwed up. Now, if you make a mistake, I don't want you to hide it from me. I want you to tell me, and we'll help fix it, and then we'll use it to teach.
And the thing about mistakes, like when you're in the middle of the fire, like it feels like that shit is hot.
Oh, like, yeah. It's the end of the world.
You. Yeah. The world's crumbling around you. But then like a week, a month, a year later, you can like look back and you're just like, that was ridiculous. Like you can laugh like 98% of them, like you can get a good chuckle out of. But at the time, it feels like it's just...
It just can consume you, but that's where I like the culture here, where you don't have to have that fear to communicate it. Hey, I made this mistake. Can you help me fix it? Yeah. Yes, I will help you fix it.
So I'm super excited. I'll kind of close it up a little bit, and then I'll let Tom kind of speak at the end. But I'm super excited about kind of where the direction's going. What is cool about it is we have a pretty long outlook. We don't ever run our business on a quarterly basis. We're kind of looking to what's going to happen in the future. So that's kind of what excites me about, going forward. I mean, is there something that you're looking forward to, the challenge? Is there something that you're looking forward to business-wise or whatever, pushing into this year?
The biggest thing I get enjoyment out of my job, is seeing people improve and seeing them grow. And it's such a great feeling when someone comes in and they're, new, they really don't know what they're doing, this and that, and then you see them get moved into a position and they grow up like right in front of your eyes, right? So I think what I'm really excited about is how we've kind of organized the management structure of the company, and basically what we've done is we put, we've called it directors. I mean, we're not huge on titles, but I mean, we had to, at least have some direction and just so people knew. But seeing, these certain individuals, whether, it's Buxton and Caldwell, Brett Wells in here, Jay, you doing what you're doing, or Nick, you're doing what you're doing, and Amy down in Hayburn, and then, you see, James Cole down in Hayburn's operation managers, Kobe, Lane, and Jose, and then, Bob and Mount Home, and Nico, and Manuel, and Dave here. I mean, the list just goes on, and Jake and Chris. I mean, I'm just really saying a lot of names here, but, man, that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to each of those people developing their people at their yards, and just watching things just grow. And I think, if everyone can come to work with a purpose, you're going to have bad days. Not every day is going to go your way, but if you kind of move, that ball at least an inch, it's going to be cool. It's going to be something to see, and I'm just excited about that.
No, it's good. Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. Like, I look forward to it as, like, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. I mean, for us, it would be like a time capsule. We should come back in 5 years or 10 years. Yeah. I'll probably be fat. and which I'll be fine with that as long as my wife's fine with that. And it'll be fun just to see like what's changed and what's come up and what's going on.
But yeah, I mean, I was up in the Caldwell today, just being up in that Holland building and seeing Barry and Jim and Elizabeth's up there now and Sam and and Angela, and I'm just looking at that and, you know, the remodel. And I'm thinking about in 2009 coming to United Metals on that Monday. And I didn't even know, I was like, I don't even know what to wear. I wore like suit pants and a collared shirt, you know, and I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at, you know. But now just seeing like all these different facets and the yards, I mean, God, it's cool. So think about it 10 years from now. Like, I'm excited to see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's going to be cool, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool. So when people ever ask us, like, what stocks are you invested in? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I look around, like, this is the stock market for us. So, like, when that thing moves crazy, it doesn't really take too much off of create too much sweat on my brow. It's more just like, what did we accomplish today as a company, whether a pipe company or a scrap company or whatever it is. Like, that's the biggest thing.
Well, I got a quick question for you, Tom. If someone watches this, sees it, and likes our culture, how do they apply? How do they go find you? Find us?
I mean, you know, you always come in and fill out an application. Okay. You know, we usually have postings on Indeed. You can do that. One cool thing we just developed is, especially for drivers, they can go on to our website, UM Recycling and United Hauling's website, and they can fill out a driver application. And they can fill out an application, a normal warehouse worker
on there
can too as well. So, yeah, those are the good places.
Go to the website.
Go to the website, call, you know, figure it out. Just whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great.
Thanks, bud.
Appreciate
it.
Thanks, Tom.
All right.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Recycled Idaho. And as we continue the journey across this great state, we look forward to bringing you more stories of people and organizations putting in the work to do the right thing.